How's it going, everyone? My name is George, and I was just pretending to open a portal like Doctor Strange does because this is a Doctor Strange review. This is Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness, directed by Sam Raimi this time, not Scott Derrickson. And once again, stars Benedict Cumberbatch as Doctor Strange, and he goes on a multiverse adventure as well as trying to protect American Chavez, played by Xochitl Gomez. Sorry if I mispronounced that name, who can open portals into the multiverse. So, Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness is an interesting sequel because the first Doctor Strange film came out in November 2016. So, this is coming out over 5 years since the first Doctor Strange film. And a lot's happened with Doctor Strange since his first solo film, the events of Infinity War, Endgame, and No Way Home. Sorry. Have all involved Doctor Strange. And there's been a lot of consequences with some of the decisions that Doctor Strange has made. Some sacrifices had to be made. And also, this is Sam Raimi's first superhero film since Spider Man 3. It's his first film since Oz the Great and Powerful back in 2013. And even when Scott Derrickson was supposed to direct this film, it was always meant to be the first MCU horror film. So when Scott Derrickson left, Raimi was the perfect choice because before he directed the Spider Man films, he was well known for directing the Evil Dead franchise, the franchise that put him on the map before he got to direct Spider Man. So it was really interesting to see like how's Marvel gonna handle horror, and will they stick to the formula? It's safe to say that they did not stick with the formula this time around. They did something different. I mean, yeah, you still have some of those MCU quips and humor every now and then, but as far as MCU movies that it feels like the director had a lot more control, the tone felt different, the style felt more different. Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness is definitely one of those MCU films where things felt a lot more different. And again, like I just said, Raimi got a lot more control of this film, and it's surprising because there's always been talks that Marvel doesn't really give directors all that much control. Some directors have had to leave due to creative differences, and I'm not just talking about Scott Derrickson with Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness. Thor: The Dark World went through several different directors, including Wonder Woman director Patty Jenkins, and she left due to creative differences. So it's always been somewhat of an issue for Marvel. Ant-Man was also another popular example. I think it was Edgar Wright that left due to creative differences says before Peyton Reed came on board. But yeah, they let Raimi go all in with this film, and if you're a Sam Raimi film, you're gonna love this movie, or you're gonna enjoy this movie at the very least. I had a great time with this movie. Yeah, I love Sam Raimi's Spider-Man trilogy a lot. I've talked about it before on this channel many times. I reviewed all three Spider-Man films, but I also enjoy his Evil Dead movies. Now, yeah, they can be very disturbing at times. Sometimes I have to like look away. I know the first time I saw the first Evil Dead, it was really hard to watch, but they're also very entertaining. And while they're short movies, they're well paced. And Raimi's style of horror is the kind of horror that I feel like a lot of people just, a lot of directors at least struggle to try to replicate. Raimi just pulls it off so well. And it's in this film. And there are some things in this film that if you're an Evil Dead fan, you're going to look and see, that reminds me of Evil Dead. That reminds me of that from the Evil Dead. And I'm glad that Kevin Feige let Raimi do what he needed to do with this film as far as setting the horror tone. This is definitely one of the darker MCU films. Like, is it pure horror? No. But this is the kind of film where if you have kids, know what is too scary for your kids. Now, when I saw the film, there were some kids in the theater. No one was screaming or crying, but again, not every kid's probably gonna enjoy this film. It might scare some kids, so just know or understand what your kid can handle if you have kids or you're planning on taking a kid to see this movie. As far as casting goes, Benedict Cumberbatch is once again fantastic as Doctor Strange. We see him going through a lot in this film, like right at the beginning. This minor spoiler, but it's kind of been shown in the trailers. He's at Christine Palmer's wedding, and this film, like that's one of the themes of this movie about like how he's handling the fact that like what him and Christine once had is no longer there, the decisions and sacrifices that he's had to make as Doctor Strange. However, the real star of this movie, as fantastic as Benedict Cumberbatch is as Doctor Strange and how cool Doctor Strange is really Elizabeth Olsen as Wanda Maximoff, aka the Scarlet Witch. And we gotta remember that this isn't just a sequel to Doctor Strange and Spider-Man No Way Home. This is also a sequel to WandaVision, and we're seeing how Wanda's dealing with the events of that film. And in this film, we're really seeing her fully embrace Scarlet Witch. She gives one of the best performances as Wanda Maximoff, definitely her best performance, one of the best performances of her career. And it just shows how far this character has gone since the events of Avengers Age of Ultron when she was first introduced. And she's just fantastic in this movie. She's definitely the best part of this film. Now, with Wanda, there are some decisions that fans might be divided on with how her character was handled. Some people will like it, some people may not like it because she goes in a different route than I think people have been used to. But I feel like with what she's gone through and also the decisions that she's made in the past, good or bad, this felt like the direction that her story arc needed to go, at least in my opinion. Uh, One of the newcomers in this film is American Chavez. Xochitl Gomez plays her. Once again, sorry if I mispronounced that name. And she does a very good job as well. I'm not that familiar with American Chavez. I've heard some people say that she feels different than what she's like in the comics. So, like I said, I'd never read American Chavez comics, so I'm unfamiliar with her. But I feel like Gomez did a very good job with this portrayal. And she's obviously one of the youngest stars in the MCU right now. And I think she's got a bright future, not just as American Chavez, but as far as getting more roles down the road. And visually, this film looks great visually, some of the best visuals in the MCU. Special effects work is still great. I felt that same way about the first Doctor Strange film. They definitely always put a lot of effort into these effects. And that's one of the reasons why this film also got delayed by 2 months. They wanted to do much more with the VFX effects. They didn't want to rush it. Because one of the complaints people had with Spider-Man No Way Home was when it first came out, they were still working on the VFX effects. So some of the early showings, it wasn't 100% completed. And it's become more noticeable when you rewatch Spider-Man No Way Home more often. But yeah, they definitely did much better with the VFX effects this time around. And pacing. So a lot of people were expecting this to be a long movie because it's Multiverse of Madness. This is a 2 hour, 7 minute film. And I know a lot of people were expecting this to be as long as at least No Way Home, but it's not. And if you know Sam Raimi by now, he usually doesn't do these long run times to begin with. A lot of his films tend to be around like that 2 hours or less kind of runtime. So this was like around the same runtime as Spider-Man 2. And I think for the most part, they covered everything well. Like right from the beginning, there's like an action sequence. And basically, like at the beginning of the film, there's like two action sequences. You got the first action sequence, then you got the wedding, then you got another action sequence. So like right away, they're like getting into this film. And that's a good thing because sometimes exposition can not be helpful. But in this case, there are times when you kind of need some more exposition. Like the one thing that I felt like that was rushed was the Illuminati stuff. And this is where the surprise cameos come around, the cameos that people were hyping up. And I'm not saying they need to have as big of a role as Andrew and Toby had in No Way Home or the villains in No Way Home. But I felt like you could have had like 5 to 10 more minutes added to kind of establish them because audiences aren't as familiar with the Illuminati. Like, yeah, you're gonna see like a few familiar faces, but then you're gonna see a few faces where you might be confused. Like, if you've seen What If, you're gonna point out right away, oh, I understand that reference. If you've seen like a certain film, you'll say, I understand that. but I feel like they could have done more to establish the Illuminati better. And this is like a minor spoiler. I'm only going to talk about one of the members. And this is the member that we knew since the second trailer he was going to be in the film. Professor X, Charles Xavier. Patrick Stewart returns as Charles Xavier. And in the short amount of time that he's in, he's very good. And yeah, even though it's a different version, he still feels like the Patrick Stewart, Charles Xavier that we've known and loved from the X-Men movies, even though this is in a different universe. But again, there's also some differences with him. And I felt like maybe they could have established some of these characters better in the Illuminati. I don't know, are they going to save them for Secret Wars, like another version of these characters for Secret Wars? Because I really feel like that's where the big cameos are going to play a bigger role down the road. At the same time, I understand why they may have had to cut the screen time for them because this is still a Doctor Strange movie, and you're also focusing not just on Doctor Strange, but you're focusing on Wanda, you're focusing on American Chavez, and I think when they focused on those characters, they did a very good job. They understood what those characters are going through, what their motivations are, and yeah, other than the Illuminati stuff, I think everything else was well paced for the most part. Danny Elfman's score. Danny Elfman does the score in his film, and he's been known for doing scores for other Sam Raimi movies. It was good. It was very good. But one of the things that I do prefer about the first Doctor Strange film over this film, although I do overall prefer this film over the first Doctor Strange movie, was Michael Giacchino's score for Doctor Strange. It just felt more iconic. It was more memorable, and it just stuck with me more. Whereas Danny Elfman's is pretty good, but it's definitely not up there with his Spider-Man or Batman scores. I do prefer this one over the one he did for Age of Ultron, though, so it's definitely better than that one. But all in all, I think Sam Raimi did a very good job with this film. His style was definitely there. I like that they let him go loose with this, and he did a great job of combining the two things that he's well known for in horror and superhero movies into this one movie. Benedict Cumberbatch is still great as Doctor Strange. And oh yeah, I also forgot he's playing other variants of himself. He's not just playing one version of himself. He's playing other variants of himself, and he's doing a great job playing these other versions of him. And oh yeah, the tone. This is definitely a dark movie, one of the darker MCU movies. And when Wanda's killing people, like she's like very brutal with her killings. That's kind of part of the controversial decisions that are being made with Wanda. But it was kind of shown in the trailers that she was going to go on a rampage at some point in this film. So, yeah, Wanda, like, this is definitely one of the darkest MCU movies. Like I said, know what your kid can handle if you have kids. Um, Wanda Maximoff, Elizabeth Olsen is great as this character. Definitely her best performance as this character. The other characters are still very good as well. Benedict Wong as Wong is very good. Rachel McAdams as Christine Palmer is very good. Chiwetel Ejiofor is also very good as Mordo, but that's another thing. The way Mordo is presented in this film is not the way you were expecting him to be presented in this film, so also understand that as well. And hopefully they actually do more with Mordo down the road, because that was another downgrade from the first film. I think it's just how Mordo was handled and the score were the only two downgrades for me from the first film. But other than that, I think Multiverse of Madness improved on a lot more from the first Doctor Strange film, in my opinion at least. And stick around for the mid-credits scene, and I think they're definitely setting something up, but they are setting it up in a way where we're still not 100% sure what's going to happen. But I will say this, the multiverse stuff in Phase 4 so far has become my favorite stuff in MCU Phase 4. No Way Home, Loki, and now Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness. Those are probably my top three favorite MCU projects so far in Phase 4. So, yeah, they're doing a very good job, I think, with the multiverse stuff as of right now. I think we're going to get a little break from the multiverse, though. because the next film is Thor: Love and Thunder, and the next show is Miss Marvel. So it looks like we're gonna get a multiverse break for a while. I think whether it's Loki season 2 or Ant-Man the Wasp: Quantumania will, I think, be where we touch upon the multiverse again, unless you count What If. But other than that, like I said, I enjoyed Multiverse of Madness a lot, and I recommend you go see it. I'm gonna give it an A minus. I had a great time. It's definitely a film that if you're a Sam Raimi fan as well, you're gonna love it. And I understand that some people will say this is a better Sam Raimi movie than it is a MCU movie. However, I will say that this film does still feels like an MCU movie. I know there's another superhero movie, Batman Returns, where Tim Burton got a lot of more control and it felt more like a Tim Burton movie than a Batman movie. It feels so with Multiverse of Madness, while yeah, it's still a Sam Raimi movie, it still feels like an MCU movie and it doesn't lose sight of that, even though Raimi's got a lot of control in this film. But yeah, like I said, I'm gonna give this film an A minus. I highly recommend you go check it out. It's not as good as No Way Home, but I don't think it needed to be as good as No Way Home. I feel like a lot of people thought this was going to be like Infinity War, Endgame, No Way Home level, but it's still a Doctor Strange movie, and I feel like Marvel's saving the big cameos for something like, let's say, Secret Wars down the road. And what do you guys think about Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness? Did you love it? Did you hate it? This is probably going to be one of the most divisive films in the MCU. Some people will say this is one of their favorites. Some people will say it's one of their least favorites. For me, it's outside my top 10, but it's in my top 13. But yeah, what do you guys think about Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness? Let me know down below. And by the way, there is an Avatar trailer, Avatar: The Way of Water with Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness. I have an Avatar shirt on. And I did like the trailer a lot. I am looking forward to that movie. But yeah, let me know down below what you think of Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness. And I want to thank you guys for watching. Please like and subscribe already if you haven't. Please share this with someone that's an MCU fan that loves Doctor Strange. And my next set of reviews is going to be Jurassic Park and Toy Story. I'm going to be taking a break from covering superhero movies, well, reviewing superhero movies at least, and I'll be reviewing Jurassic Park and Toy Story films because we got Jurassic World Dominion and Lightyear, not Toy Story, Lightyear coming out in June, and I'm looking forward to those two movies, so stay tuned for those reviews, and I hope to see you guys real soon. Take care, everyone.